This moment in Stranger Things is pretty satisfying for the viewer on the first watch. It's filled with tension and suspense. It feels like the natural conclusion to what the show has been building towards the entire time. However, on subsequent viewings, it doesn't quite have the same effect. For those not quite in the know, this is the Demogorgon, the central monster at the heart of the Season 1 of the now beloved Netflix modern classic, Stranger Things. The Demogorgon is loosely based on creatures appearing in the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons.
We're deep shit.
This shot should be the grand debut of a new iconic cinematic monstrosity, but when revisiting it, it kind of falls flat, due in large part to something that could be termed as concept design groupthink. What does that mean? To put it in no uncertain terms, a lot of the conceptual designer world is very stylistically incestuous. It is an area of artistic self-cannibalization. The monsters in A Quiet Place, Cloverfield, the Mutos from Godzilla, the creatures from The Host, and a bevy of other things that go bump in the night all share a common visual vocabulary. Every one of these creatures has long angular limbs, a bulbous or oddly shaped torso, a round or extended skull shape that splits into either a distended jaw or literally just opens up into a teeth-filled death flower killing machine. Isolated from their contemporary brethren, these creatures are horrifying and effectively create a general sense of unease in the mind of the viewer. However, when looked at as a whole, it is readily evident that these creatures are working off the same visual rubric. A lot of them just feel like a plug-and-play design aesthetic. Part of the issue is the simple reality that most of these creatures are being worked on by teams of visual effects and concept design artists that are all constantly looking at each other's work. This modality of working spawns a melting of styles, a softening of big swings visually. Ultimately, this way of working breeds executions that don't necessarily have as iconic of a footprint. Just think about the movie monsters that have changed the face of cinema. Lon Chaney Sr.'s makeups, Frankenstein's monster, created by Jack Pierce, or even something as deeply psychosexual as H.R. Giger's Alien design, or Stan Winston's Predator design. All of these characters are created using computer-generated animation. There's nothing inherently wrong with CG. The issue at hand is that very few filmmakers find new or inventive ways to utilize the technology. However, there are some key examples of directors creating truly nightmarish visuals with CGI. Take, for instance, the antagonist in Dave Bruckner's The Ritual. Shockingly grotesque, truly otherworldly, and definitively stylish. This beast is one for the ages. It's that most people opt for the same visual solutions over and over again. One of the key reasons why so many CGI creatures look the same is that the computer animation excels at very specific textures. The Host, Pacific Rim, Quiet Place, and many other contemporary monsters all have the same textures to them. None of these films are bad in their own right. Most of them are good. The issue is that when juxtaposed against one another, they all feel the same. One of the things that separates movie monsters of older eras from the current one is that they were constructed using corporeal rubber suits. These constraints caused the artist to have to work harder to create compelling designs. You know a Stan Winston creature when you see it. Most of the monsters created today are only effective in generating scares on the initial viewing. They lack staying power. The half-life of these creations is distinctly smaller than in cinematic generations past. Has there been an army of xenomorph ripoffs since 1978? Yes, of course. However, none of them have rivaled the impact of that original film because Giger, the creator of the monster, wasn't involved. He has an individualistic specificity to his work, both a sculptural aesthetic and airbrush technique that are virtually impossible to mimic. Today, with an army of hyper-skilled CG riggers and concept artists who all literally graduate from the same 4 or 5 schools, these characters aren't as idiosyncratic, individualistic, or impressive. An additional point of evidence is that the shape languages on display are created and stolen from one viz dev artist to another so rapidly that sometimes you'll have 3 films debut in 1 year and they all have monsters that look virtually identical. The codified, logically grounded creature design aesthetic is something that is so dialed in. At this point, it's very difficult to do anything divergent. Another reason why these creatures have a specific aesthetic is that many of their shapes and forms are defined using speed painting in Photoshop. Some are even created in a process called photo bashing, which takes photos that the concept designer likes and they cobble them together digitally and digitally paint on top of them. Once again, there's nothing wrong with this approach to creating concept designs. It just has a specific aesthetic it produces, and it's an aesthetic that almost everything has currently. Many of our favorite movie monsters were created by drawing with pencil and paper. This isn't to say that one is better than the other, it's just to say that one requires more time, energy, and attention to detail to produce a finished product, and the other is engineered exclusively around speed and efficiency. There are drawbacks to each, and very tangible upsides to each, and if there was a balance of which methods were being used, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Here's a design created by Oscar-winning makeup effects artist Joel Harlow. On its own, it's a really cool, if not slightly alien-esque design. And here's a design created by Armand Serrano for a potential Pacific Rim kaiju. Also really cool, just, using a lot of the same jagged shapes, oblong head design, and obviously influenced by Giger. Alone, each of these designs are great. Together, they each feel significantly less impactful. It's the same shapes over and over again, the bulbous heads, the Giger-style tubing defining musculature in the anatomy, the very specific limb distortions. All of these creatures are playing in the same stylistic sandbox. There's a saying that an artist is defined by their canvas. This is a pithy idiom, but it also summarizes the difficulty of understanding what the perimeters of your challenge artistically are. Meaning if you have endless money and endless time and an endless amount of space to create, you're going to just shunt creativity out into a void of never stop working. However, if you have to create a drawing on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, pencil, and a little bit of paint, you're going to be doing something completely different. Therein lies the paradox. Today, filmmaking techniques have evolved to really create anything we can think of. We can create endless vistas of stars, or 3 grains of sand on a beach, with more or less the same amount of effort. Because of this limitless ability, in a truly human way, we choose to squander it. We choose to only mimic what our proverbial neighbor is doing. In generations prior, there were very strict practicality and monetary restrictions on the artists at work. The canvas was very tangibly defined. This required a select few people to create everlasting imagery that has influenced our culture ever since. They had a creative box to burst out of, and they were able to break the rules and foster innovation because it was harder to create something new. Today, as evidenced by Stranger Things and A Quiet Place's creatures being cut from the same cloth, there is a nearly limitless canvas. You can create anything you can think of. The only problem is that everyone is only interested in doing what's already succeeded before. And what do you know? That's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. What do you think? Are monster designers gonna figure out how to crack this nut? Will we get some new iconic creatures? Or will we be trapped in a CGI hellscape forever? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, please like and subscribe for more Nerdstalgic videos.